Welcome, good morning, transportation partners, stakeholders, and members of the public. I'm pleased to welcome you to the North hearing on Caltrans proposed 2024 State Highway Operations Protection Program, also known as the SHOPP. Today's hearing is informational only and no action will be taken. The proposed 2024 SHOPP is part of the state's Fix It First program and includes $21 billion in projects over the next 4 years. It's a product of transportation planning process used by Caltrans to determine the most cost-effective way to apply the state's limited resources towards projects on the state highway system. The 2024 SHOPP is the first to transition to the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, also known as CAPTI, and includes over 100 projects where Caltrans has added climate adaptation, additional safety, and bike and pedestrian elements to carry over projects already initiated prior to the implementation of CAPTI. We look forward to hearing more from Caltrans today about how the proposed 2024 SHOPP prioritizes projects that will preserve and protect the state's transportation assets in an equitable and climate-friendly manner. The commission is responsible for providing accountability and transparency to ensure that SHOPP funds are used effectively and efficiently consistent with the law. Today's hearing provides Caltrans an opportunity to present an overview of the proposed program and also provides transportation partners, stakeholders, and members of the public an opportunity to give input on the program. Thank you for joining us for this SHOPP hearing. Your participation is valuable to the commission in carrying out its responsibilities. Douglas will now provide instructions for participants wishing to comment on the proposed 2024 SHOPP, both in person or remotely.
Thank you, Commissioner Grisby. Welcome to the 2024 Northern California SHOPP hearing. The CTC exists to make transportation planning, funding, and policy more understandable and accountable. Our hearings take place in diverse locations around the state so that commissioners and staff can hear directly from our stakeholders around California. We now hold our hearings in a hybrid in-person webinar format to make them more accessible than ever. Please bear with us should we encounter any technical challenges. The hearing agenda is available on our website, www.catc.ca.gov. Any document the CTC creates can be translated into any language you need. Simply email us at ctc@catc.ca.gov and we'll have them returned to you as quickly as possible. American Sign Language is being provided for this hearing. You should see this on your screen. Live closed captioning translation is also available. Please select the Show Captions tab at the bottom of your screen. There are a number of language options available there to choose from. We welcome comments from the public as part of this hearing. For those attending in person, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk at the front of the room to let us know you want to comment on an item. For those attending via Zoom, you should see the webinar control panel, likely located at the bottom of your screen. There you'll find the raise hand and the Q&A tab. We encourage you to use the raise hand feature as early into the public comment item as you can to give the system time to acknowledge you. Commission staff will let you know when it's your turn to make a comment. Alternately, you may use the Q&A tab to submit your comment. Please be sure to include the agenda item number you are commenting on. Commission staff will read the comment on your behalf. As a reminder, each registered attendee is provided a unique link and phone number to access the webinar. These should not be shared with other participants as this can create confusion for staff when calling on you to make your comments. Please do your best to be concise. Please make sure that your comments add new information. If you agree with the comments of a previous speaker, simply make that statement. Please remember to speak at a steady pace to allow our translating service adequate time for accurate translation. Since we often have many speakers, we ask that you make your point in 3 minutes or less. If, for some reason, we have many speakers on any single topic, we reserve the right to limit comments to 1 minute as needed. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Douglas. We'll hear next from John Prey to discuss the statutory requirements of the 2024 SHOPP.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everybody. Thank you in advance for your participation today. My name is John Prey. I'm the Assistant Chief Engineer here on staff at the Commission and part of the team responsible for providing oversight for the SHOPP program. Before we hear from Caltrans, I'll provide some brief background information specifically about the Commission's statutory role as it pertains to this hearing and to the adoption of the proposed 2024 SHOP. If you could pull up the next slide, I have a visual. So I like to see things visually. So as I speak through the next few points, I prepared this slide to kind of graphically represent the SHOP adoption timeline. The requirements for the preparation and adoption of the SHOP are outlined in Government Code Section 14526.5. And what you see on the screen, the blue bars, the top blue bar, we are currently in the 2022, we're operating under the 2022 SHOP. And what we're talking about today is the development of the 2024 SHOP, which is the other blue bar, but we're not that far along yet. We're still in the development of the 2024 SHOP. So according to Government Code Section 14526.5, Caltrans is required to prepare and transmit a four-year SHOP to the Commission by January 31st of each year. Prior to submitting its proposed program, Caltrans is required to make a draft of its proposed program available to transportation planning agencies for review and comment, and is required to include the comments in its submittal to the Commission. On December 7th, 2023, the proposed SHOP was made available to regional transportation planning agencies and other stakeholders for review and comment. Caltrans accepted comments from December 7th all the way through January 19th. And then on January 31st, 2024, in accordance with the statutory requirements, the proposed 2024 SHOP was submitted to the Commission with the comments from transportation planning agencies and other stakeholders included. The Government Code further requires the Commission to review the SHOP relative to its overall adequacy and consistency with the asset management plan, and as part of that review, to hold at least one hearing in Northern California and one hearing in Southern California. The North hearing is what we're doing here today, and I'd like to thank you all in advance for your participation in today's hearing, as your participation is valuable to the Commission in carrying out its responsibilities. Finally, after the hearings, if and once the Commission finds that the SHOP is consistent with the law and the asset management plan, the Commission is required to adopt the SHOP and submit it to the legislature and the governor by April 1st. The Commission may decline to adopt the SHOP if it determines it is not consistent with the law or that it is not sufficiently consistent with the asset management plan. After adoption by the Commission, any change to a after adoption by the Commission, any change to a programmed SHOP project's scope, cost, schedule, or benefits requires Commission approval. The policies and procedures for the development of the SHOP and the management of the SHOP after adoption are outlined in the Commission's SHOP guidelines. These guidelines can be found on our website. And lastly, I want to throw in one quick plug for a future engagement opportunity. Immediately after adoption of the 2024 SHOP, the Commission will begin considering updates to the SHOP guidelines. Our kickoff workshop is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 10th, and a save the date for that workshop will be coming soon. We're excited to invite all of you to participate in that process with us as well. And that concludes my remarks under item number 2.
Thank you, John Prey. Next is item 3, and John, you're up again with Mike Johnson.
All right. Item number 3 will be a presentation from Caltrans giving an overview of the proposed 2024 SHOP. Mike Johnson, the state asset management engineer, will be giving the presentation. And so I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Johnson. I'm the Caltrans State Asset Management Engineer. And for the next few minutes, we'll go through kind of a high-level briefing of the 2024 SHOP, how these particular projects came about, and what this SHOP will accomplish. Next slide. So one of the requirements of the Commission is to find that this SHOP is consistent with the asset management plan. And our evidence for that is the process by which we create the SHOP. So we're showing really the 6 primary steps that we use. These are each documents that lead us to the point where we get to these specific projects. So starting on the very left, we have the California Transportation Asset Management Plan. This plan is a statewide plan that includes both state and locally owned assets that represent the national highway system. And so when we do the asset management plan, it is a very high-level plan. We have one set of targets for the whole state of California. It includes both ownership by the state and by cities and counties around the state. In order to operationalize the asset management plan within Caltrans for the SHOPP, we have to produce a document called the State Highway System Management Plan. The State Highway System Management Plan looks, instead of just 4 assets statewide, it's looking at 35 different objectives in the SHOPP across 12 districts. So when you think about how granular these plans are, the State Highway System Management Plan is about 100 times more granular than the state of California's Transportation Asset Management Plan. From the State Highway System Management Plan, we produce district level performance plans. And in these performance plans at a district level, and there's 12 districts that represent the whole state of California, we look at that particular district's inventory, the condition of their assets, the performance targets that the commission has established, and we look at what the gaps are between the performance gaps. And from this, we develop a tailored plan for each of the 12 districts across all 35 of these objectives. With that performance plan, we provide a fiscally constrained budget for each of the districts to operate under. So that performance plan then is picked up by our districts, and they work with the local constituents and communities to develop projects that address those performance outcomes set out in the performance plan. And they do that within the constrained budget that we provided. So the district's response here is a set of projects. Those projects are published in what we call the 10-year project book. The 10-year project book is also available as a virtual dashboard to the public at www.projectbook.dot.ca.gov. And so you can go in there into the dashboard and you can look at what all these projects are in your local area. That 10-year plan, obviously, by definition, is a 10-year set of work. The first couple years of that will become each successive SHOPP. So when we do a SHOPP, we're adding 2 new years. We have typically 2 years of carryover. The first 2 years of the 10-year plan will become the new SHOPP. Within the project book, we are recertifying and revalidating once a quarter that set of projects meets all the performance objectives that were laid out, and it does it at a constrained budget. So when we get to where we are now, which is really step 5 in this process, we know that we've built a portfolio of projects that are specifically tailored to meet these 35 performance objectives in each of the 12 districts. And it is this process that gives us confidence that this set of work that we're asking the commission to adopt in their next meeting is consistent with the asset management plan. And as a check on that, to the document on the far right of this screen, we do an annual report to the commission in June that show the actual condition and performance of key aspects of the transportation system to demonstrate that the portfolio of projects we're putting forward are in fact getting us to the goals we're trying to achieve. Next slide. So I want to spend just a minute talking about the timeline because this tends to be an area that is confusing to folks. So this timeline starts in 2021. And the reason I'm starting in 2021 is because then on July 1st, 2021, the 2021 State Highway System Management Plan became effective. That immediately kicked off 2 years of programming that took place in the 21-22 and 22-23 fiscal years. That planning is what feeds this shop. Next animation. So today, if you look at the blue star where we sit today, we're currently working on the 2023 State Highway System Management Plan. It went into effect about 7 months ago. That means that planning for the 2026 shop is 7 months into a 24-month period. So we're about between a quarter and a third of the way done with planning projects for the 2026 shop. Next animation. So it's really important to understand that the planning work that started in 2021 is really feeding way out here in the 2024 shop. So typically there's anywhere between a 4 to 6 year time frame between when we're planning and when those projects are actually plugged in for construction in the shop. Next animation. And this process repeats. So as we go into the 2025 State Highway System Management Plan, which we're about to embark on soon, we will, we're planning for the 2026 shop. We're setting up a plan that will ultimately determine what projects get planned for the 2028 shop. Next slide. So this is a summary of the 2024 draft shop. These numbers are a little different than I presented at the last commission meeting. And that's because this set of presentation, these tables and these graphics were updated to reflect all of the commission actions in the January commission meeting. So as it sits right now, there's 617 projects in the shop. About 420 of those are already programmed. So the commission has already amended them into the shop and or provided allocations for a particular phase of development. And there's 197 new projects that we will be asking the commission to effectively amend and make the 2024 shop next month. These combined 617 projects, about 16.1 billion of projects, covers a 4-year time period from adoption through 2028. In terms of a breakdown of these 617 projects, the table on the right shows the anchor objective, and I want to just talk about what that heading means. So an anchor objective means that it is the primary or most expensive component of a project. Because when we program work, we're programming it under a particular set of codes that Caltrans and the commission have agreed upon. And so we have to put each project into a bucket, if you will. And you could see that about half of the total project dollars are shown with pavement as the anchor objective. That doesn't mean that half the money is being spent on pavement. It just means that, the totality of work that's combined with that pavement work represents about half of the work that's out there. And so you can kind of see the breakdown here. There's, significant investment, obviously in pavements and bridges, and then, lesser investment in some of the others. About $1 billion estimated to be in safety. So it's 6% of the shop. Next slide. In terms of project costs, there's a pretty good bell-shaped curve for the shop. There's maybe with a little bit higher numbers in the lower end of the spectrum. That's done in part to help engage small and disadvantaged businesses throughout California. But you can see that the bulk of the work is, somewhere between 5 million and say 40 million. But we have projects in excess of 100 million and we have projects under 1 million. So pretty good distribution of work. This is intended to engage all levels of, design firms and or construction firms, depending on how we're going to procure the work. Next slide. In terms of the SHOPP as a whole and looking at the SHOPP as sort of an economic engine, this particular SHOPP is estimated to generate about 270,000 jobs over the 4-year period, with about 59,000 estimated to go to small and disadvantaged businesses throughout California. In addition, when we look at these projects, of the 617 total projects, there's about 45% of those projects include some mode of transportation other than highway modes, bike, ped, transit, primarily. So, you know, when you look at the totality of this investment, I mean, the SHOPP is really creating opportunities across California for both big and small firms and really from border to border. Next slide. In terms of our core, what we call our core asset accomplishments, these particular 4 assets have specific regulatory performance requirements that were put in place under Senate Bill 1. They require us to achieve certain performance targets. And so we look at them sort of as a class to just reinforce that Caltrans remains committed to fix it first. We remain committed to the promises that were made to the public when Senate Bill 1 passed and the potential recall was shot down. But overall, that pavement, there was this SHOPP will fix over 6,100 lane miles of pavement statewide. About 4.6 million square feet of surface area of bridges will be fixed. There's over 1,400 transportation management system elements. These are things like traffic signals, ramp meters, changeable message signs, cameras, loop detectors, things like that, that we use to efficiently manage the operations of the state highway system. And about 300,000 linear feet of culvert will be fixed by this SHOPP. Next slide. I mentioned that 45% of all projects include a bike, ped, or transit component. This provides some breakdown to those numbers. In total, there's over 275 miles of bike lane being proposed in this SHOPP within these projects. There's about 69 miles of sidewalk and crosswalks being proposed for pedestrians and 168 transit stop improvements being proposed around the state. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about bike and ped elements. You know, I mentioned overall 45% of the total number of projects have a bike, ped, or transit element. And it often begs this question, well, why don't 100% of the projects have one of these elements? And the answer to that is really one of 2 reasons why a project might not have bike, ped, or transit elements. The first is that the work that we're doing, it's not feasible to include bike, ped, or transit elements. And the top 4 reasons for that are shown on the screen. By far, the most common is that we are working in an access control area of the state highway system. Bike, ped, and these bikes and peds are not permitted on any interstate in California, to my knowledge. And so in those instances, it's not feasible to put bikes and peds in areas where they're not permitted to be legally. If we were to take those projects out of the mix and say, okay, of the feasible locations, how many have bike, ped, or transit? That number jumps up to 63%. So if you take the access control out, locations out, we're doing bike, ped, and transit work on about 63% of the projects. Still not 100. So why is that? There are certain types of projects that we do where we really can't do bike ped or transit work. These include projects where we're doing underground pipes and culverts, stormwater mitigation projects, emergency repair work, electrical work, all fall into this category of, the scope of the work that we're contracting for is not conducive with bicycle and pedestrian or transit elements being added. Next slide. The 2024 draft SHOPP was put out for the first time using an electronic dashboard. And this has been very popular because it allows anybody, this is publicly available, the website to get it is at the very bottom of the slide there. But when you come into this dashboard, you have an opportunity to filter projects by a whole host of criteria, including a map where you can zoom in to your local area and you can look at projects that are in the vicinity of where you may live or work and may have interest in those projects. Once you've found projects of interest on the map, you can simply click on one of the little triangles on that left map, and it will give you a lot of information about the project, including who you could phone or email to engage with Caltrans regarding that project. So this is one way that Caltrans is trying to step up our public engagement on these projects. And then in addition, at the bottom of this, there's a listing of all the projects that met your criteria. At the very top, you get counts of how many projects met your criteria. These projects can be filtered by, state legislative district, congressional districts. It can be filtered by the type of work. There's a drop down for activities that actually has about 150 different individual activities that you could select or deselect to really hone in your query of projects that meet that criteria. And there's also the feature of a keyword search. So if you wanted to see any project that had something to do with bikes, you could just put in the word bike and hit enter, and it would give you every project in the state of California that has any activity that pertains to bikes. Likewise, if you wanted to see which projects are using recycled materials, there's an activity for that. You could do keyword. So lots of power here to sort of sift your way through these 617 projects that never existed in the past when we just had a paper PDF document. Once you've found the projects of interest, you can download those projects to Excel on your local machine, and you can do whatever you want to do with that list locally, analyze it, evaluate it, track it. This dashboard is, one of the efforts that we've been making to try to make the SHOPP a lot more transparent than it's been in the past. Next slide. So in terms of the overall development schedule, I mean, John kind of ran through the draft going out for public comment on December 7th. We transmitted a draft of the document to the commission on the 31st, which included the comments that we received from the public between December 7th and January 19th. We had our South public hearing last week down in San Bernardino, and today we're doing our North public hearing. We'll receive additional comments. And then all of those comments that we receive, plus comments that we receive from the commission, will be wrapped into the final SHOPP, which will go before the commission for a vote at the March meeting. Following the commission's action on the SHOPP, it by regulation is required to go to the legislature and governor by April 1st, 2024. So that next slide concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to hear comments or answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mike, for that presentation. I will now open the North hearing for the proposed 2024 SHOPP. We will take verbal comments from in-person attendees and then verbal and written comments from virtual attendees. When it is your turn to speak, please remember to state your name and affiliation prior to voicing your remarks. The the CTC staff will now lead us through public comment.
Thank you. We have received requests from some of our public attendees to comment at this time. I'd like to first call on Sophia Rafikova.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. It's Sophia Rafikova with the Coalition for Clean Air. Thank you for this opportunity to provide feedback. We do support investments going towards improving road quality and conducting maintenance. However, we are concerned that this round of SHOPP projects does not invest enough in projects that improve pedestrian and bicyclist safety and continues to fund projects that include lane expansions. We're concerned that only 45% of the proposed SHOPP projects include one or more ADA, bike, pedestrian, or public transportation elements, which is a slight decrease from the number of projects that included these elements in the last cycle. Furthermore, only 21% of SHOPP projects focus on including complete streets assets as the primary scope of the project. Given that about 4,000 people die every year from preventable traffic violence on California roads, it is important that SHOPP projects focus on incorporating complete street elements to improve safety and accessibility for Californians choosing to walk or bike to their destinations. Additionally, we are concerned that some of the SHOPP funding is being diverted to projects that increase lane capacity. For example, there is a SHOPP project in Madera County that proposes to expand SR 99 from 4 to 6 lanes, and another project in Kern County that proposes to add an auxiliary lane. Not only will these types of projects undermine California's progress in meeting its climate targets by increasing GHG emissions and air pollution generated by the transportation sector, but also the SHOPP program is strictly limited to capital improvements that do not add new through highway lanes. Thus, we ask that the SHOPP project list be reevaluated to remove any projects from consideration that increase the number of lanes, as these projects should not qualify for SHOPP funding. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any other requests for comment at this time.
All right, thank you. The North SHOPP hearing is now closed. Oh, sorry, yeah. Is there, yeah, who's doing is that me? All right, so first, now we'll hear from people in the room. Anyone submitting cards or comments? No? All right, hearing none, the hearing is now closed. I want to thank everyone for your participation in the 2024 SHOPP hearing. Meeting's now adjourned.